Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and valued members of National Cannabis Industry Association, welcome to our Industry Essentials webinar series. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the cornerstone of our digital educational programming, which provides you timely, engaging, and essential education when and where you need it most. Today's session is part of our NCIA Committee Insight series, where we partner with one of our 14 member-led committees to bring you top-notch industry knowledge. In the ever-evolving world of cannabis, vaping has emerged as a transformative force, offering potent doses at affordable prices, yet it's also a topic that always seems to spark passionate debate. Today, we embark on a journey to gain invaluable insights from an esteemed panel representing all facets of the vaping industry. Whether you're a seasoned professional or new to the cannabis space, this webinar promises to address misconceptions, highlight current trends, and prepare you for the future of vaping. Our panelists, experts at the forefront of their fields, will guide us through this landscape, shedding light on critical issues and opportunities. But before we dive in, let's take a moment to appreciate the power of knowledge sharing and collaboration that defines NCIA's Committee Insight series. On that note, please be aware that this is the first in a series of 5 vaping-focused programs being produced by NCIA's Cannabis Manufacturing Committee, the second multi-part series that they've collaborated on this year, no less. And the remaining sessions are taking place across October and into December, so make sure to mark your calendars and secure your spots for those future sessions following today's broadcast. Thank you all for joining us today. As always, we encourage your active participation, questions, and insights as we explore the vape landscape together. So let's get started on this journey of discovery and innovation in the cannabis industry. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our esteemed moderator for today's panel. Welcome back to our Industry Essentials educational webinars, Jake. Great to see you here as always. Jake's a valued member of NCIA's Cannabis Manufacturing Committee and representing longtime member Tenacious Labs Manufacturing. So with that, I'll turn it right over to Jake to introduce the panel and get today's program started.
Thanks, Brian. Really good to be back here and with such an amazing panel. I'm excited. I, of course, am Jake Kuzarak of Tenacious Labs and the NCIA CMC, the Cannabis Manufacturing Committee, your moderator for today's webinar, Mapping the Vape Landscape. Where are we and where do we go from here? So vaping, a topic that needs no introduction, but I'll give it one anyways. We find ourselves today smack dab in the middle of a vaping boom. In adults 30 to 50 years old and the younger 18 to 30 segment, THC vape usage has scaled 2 to 3x in just the past 2 years. We're looking at about roughly 20% of the country having vaped THC in the past 12 months. Binge drinking is down, hallucinogen usage is up, but even with the relative boom we've been hearing about within hallucinogen space, that's still only 4 to 8% of the population, far less than the growth we're seeing here in vape. One thing is for certain, vaping is here to stay, especially as we're eclipsing over 2 billion in annual vape sales, and we're just now scratching the surface of the broader international market opportunity. Today, we're going to speak with our core panel of experts about the overall status of the market and emerging trends we're seeing to help guide those who are new to the segment, address some common misconceptions as we dig into the science behind vaping, and even make some predictions for the future. So without further delay, I'll ask that our panelists now go one by one, roughly 1 minute each, to give us their backgrounds. Let's start with Luna Stour, then we'll move to Darwin Millard, Arnaud Dumas de Rally, Tucker Holland, and of course, close with Jetty's Nate Ferguson. Luna, you're up first.
Thank you so much, Jake. It's such an honor to be here with so many friends and familiar faces. I'm Luna Stour. I'm the Chief Impact Officer for iSpire. We do OEM and ODM manufacturing for cannabis vape hardware in the hemp and cannabis spaces. We have been around for the last 3 years. I was their first hire and have to shout out Jetty Extracts because I got my start in the industry. So great to see Nate on here. Really started in the plant touching side and now more on the hardware and ancillary side. We just listed on the NASDAQ and IPO'd earlier in the spring. So the first cannabis vape hardware company to do so. Really proud to be part of this team. We're based in Los Angeles and really honored to be a part of this because really at the end of the day, I'm a patient. I'm an educator. I have a master's in teaching. I come from the public school background. So to be at this level in this burgeoning industry with my background in prison abolition and education and social justice and help past the decriminalization of entheogens in process for pre-64, moving from 215. I'm really excited to be here with all of these folks, really still not just surviving, but thriving. So really excited to see y'all. And I just dropped our information in the chat as well.
Awesome. Darwin?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for having me here. Darwin Millard, aka the Spock of Cannabis. I am the Chief Science Officer for Final Bell, and we are a multinational co-manufacturer producing both pre-rolls and vape cartridges for the cannabis industry. And I currently serve also as a representative of ASTM International's D37 Committee on Cannabis and vice chair the D3704 subcommittee on processing and handling, as well as chair the D3708 on personal use consumption devices and appliances, and look forward to our discussion today.
Awesome. Arno? Oh, you're muted.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arno Dumas-Durali. I am CEO of the Blink Group and chair of the ISO standards on vaping products and the SEN standards, so European standards on vaping products. Blink Group, we manufacture vaping hardware from A to Z and handle all the supply chain needs. Thank you very much for putting this on, and thanks to this great panel. I mean, we had a great time preparing, and I think we'll have a great time doing this.
Excellent. Tucker, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'm Tucker Holland. I'm a co-founder and processing director for Entourage Cannabis. We're a processing company located in Oregon that focuses on live resin and live rosin vape cartridges, as well as infused pre-rolls. I'm also a member of the Cannabis Manufacturing Committee for the NCIA. Happy to be here. I'm excited to learn from all the panelists that we have and answer any questions that I can.
Awesome. And Nate, close us out.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. Brian, NCIA, thanks for putting this on. Jake, thanks for moderating. Nate Ferguson, I'm a co-founder and chief product officer at Jetty Extracts. Been in the cannabis space for probably close to 2 decades now. Started with brick and mortar dispensaries, delivery services, cultivation back in the 215 days. We started Jetty. It's actually our 10-year anniversary this month with Jetty Extracts, and happy to say we're still in the industry, and vape is probably our lion's share of what we do, and love it, and always striving to make better product. And thanks to all these hardware manufacturers, we've come a long way.
Well, here's to another 10 more. Let's start off with a few questions that I'd love to hear from all or most of you on. In a word, how would you describe the last 365 days of vape? Go for it. Jump in.
I would
Roller
say,
coaster.
that one's good. Rosin.
Facts.
I would add to rosin by science.
I would just say crazy as ever.
That's kind of what I was expecting. Yeah.
I would say, oh, sorry.
Go for it.
I would say boom, big boom, and I would definitely second what Darwin said is a big push and move into rosin and see what rosin can do in the baking world.
Yeah, let's dig in a little bit more. So what are some of the hottest emerging trends within vape, and really what seems to have fallen off?
Definitely disposables are shooting up there.
Yeah, if it just to add a little bit to the disposables, we used to sell roughly 95% of our business was cartridges. For the past 2 years, 50 and now 60% this year is really disposables.
Yeah, and echoing here with our partners at 14th Round, another hardware manufacturer. Yeah, we've seen just an upward trend towards more of these all-in-one devices.
Yeah, I think from the product side, Darwin, a couple of you guys touched on rosin. I think, the push to get the processing better, more quality extracts in the hardware. We don't see as much CO2 and, certain kind of older extracts, even at all in the market anymore. And there's just a big push to get better, more consistent oils in these products, in this hardware.
Yeah, as a Emerald Cup judge, I noticed also that just 2 years ago, as opposed to last year, I would say it was like 80% on the CO2 and distillate side. Um, and just with a sprinkling of live resin and very little rosin. And in just 1 year, it totally flipped. I would say it was like 50 or 60% live resin, 20% rosin, and then just a couple of CO2 and distillates came in. So just from a Emerald Cup perspective, it was a massive change.
That's funny. You guys actually mentioning CO2 carts. I haven't seen one in a long, long time. Some interesting trends we've seen come on board, right, is we used to have two different types of thread types. And now we really only see the 510 that has kind of taken over as the standard potentially. And in that time, we've also seen movement away from more of, say, tobacco hardware or nicotine hardware, and really the rise of real cannabinoid specific formulations and extract driven hardware.
Yeah, to the detriment of security teams all around the country. You can't tell the difference between an Elf bar and your average THC vape anymore. But one thing that I want to double click on is functional ingredients. I know, Jetty, you guys tried these for a while. I think back in the day when Luna was there as well. I mean, those are I'm talking about things like lavender, peppermint. We're not seeing too much engagement around those anymore, are we?
No, I think, either we were really early or that product line just flopped. I think the consumer really wants their cannabis to taste like cannabis at the end of the day. And when you're adding different botanical, aromatics and flavorings, that it maybe doesn't make for the experience the consumer really wants or expects. That said, I think there's a place for it. Maybe it's in, edibles and things like certain ingestibles where you're not, the inhalation and sort of flavor experience is kind of different. And I think you're expecting, different types of flavorings and edibles and things like that. But with vape and inhalables, it didn't seem to hit, at least for us when we tried it.
And it was right around the time of the additive bans and the EVALI. And so it kind of got thrown out with the bathwater too. A lot of people were just kind of a little nervous to go that direction.
Love to see how it pans out internationally. Nate, while we got you talking here, there's been some big news from your team and Jetty, of course, in the world of vape. What is OCal certified? Why does it matter?
Yeah, interesting. It's been an interesting road, rather. OCal is basically the equivalent to the USDA organic program, because, there's no federal regulation in cannabis. We can't get a USDA certification on any of our products, whether that be input products or what we're extracting. So California came up with a program that's equivalent. It's actually more stringent than the USDA ag program. A couple pesticides that are on the list that you can use in the USDA program, which is interesting. But basically, it's our version of USDA organic. Basically, the farm, the processor, all the input material needs to be certified. So the program's gonna check their nutrient and pesticide regiments, and make sure they're not spraying anything, obviously contaminating the cannabis. That product comes in OCal certified to the Jetty manufacturing facility. And then our solventless manufacturing area is what's designated OCal. So just because we're using ice and water, there's a few other things. You can use organic ethanol, and you can use, I believe, CO2, but no hydrocarbons, anything like that can be certified OCal. So that's it. It's just basically a stamp that's, our product's clean and we're adhering to, the safest, best quality standards we can.
Awesome. And when it comes to what we've seen on the innovation side, I mean, leaking, clogging, battery issues, have historically plagued the industry. What's being done to combat this? I'd love to hear from all of you.
Yeah, well, if I could jump in, Jake, I wanted to just really quickly touch on the functional ingredient side. There's a lot of fun trends I think that are now coming back to the market. Especially when it comes to maybe soliciting certain mood states and how you might use terpene combinations to do that. So I know we're going to touch on that later, but that's potentially some of those trends we've started to see come back when using some of those types of functional ingredients, right? And trying to make actual structure function claims, perhaps with a vape product. But leaking and clogging, wow, major issues, right? I think one of the cooler things we're starting to see is real 3D design and fluid mechanics analysis of the actual hardware to see what's going on within the actual mouth chamber and those flow channels that you've created to help really understand what's going on with the device and more in-depth analysis into saturation rates. And potentially even, the design of your ceramic core or the type of ceramic or fusion time that it takes to make, and how uniform the actual porosity of your core is, and all of that, of course, leading to hopefully better functional hardware.
Yeah, I think there's another aspect that we're seeing is really the rise of postless devices. So there is a lot less contact with potential contaminants. When we speak about heavy metals, a lot of people think heavy metals come from only the hardware. Well, guess what? 75% of the heavy metals actually come from the oil itself. And a lot of heavy metals are also exaggerated in the vapor that comes out by the oil. That said, heavy metal migration into aerosol, into vaping aerosol, is not huge. It's just the start. What's really interesting and what we really need to be looking at is that consistent heating element. And I think that's really why the postless designs are really good, because most of the postless designs are printed ceramics or printed wicking materials that allow to heat uniformly and on the same basis the entire coil itself, instead of heating just a wire inside a cartridge.
All right, Tucker, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think from a manufacturing side, we're beginning to learn, how are we going to pair our different formulations with specific hardwares as well. So we've learned a lot over the few years. And if you have certain formulations that are more viscous or less viscous, how are you gonna what type of hardware works best with those? And really doing our due diligence from an R&D standpoint about what are we going to put our oil, our extracts in, what type of hardware are we going to use, instead of just kind of going out and grabbing the hottest thing that you see out there. We're really spending the time and doing the research and development on what works best with our products before we really put them out. And you see that help a lot with issues of leaking and hardware failure when you really do your due diligence. Also, just making sure that before we put the product out to the customer, that we are doing our checks to make sure that the hardware is working before we even put oil in it. And making sure the waste stays inside the warehouse before it actually goes out to the consumer. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up. And, it kind of begs the question, having the right device for what you're putting in it matters, but also how much is left in it matters as well. Delivery, bioavailability, by lifespan of device. Can you speak a little bit more to how that's being factored in and understood a little bit better?
Arno called that out on our panel.
Exactly.
It was really important. So speak on it, because I thought that was brilliant.
Now, it's really important to understand, and this goes through education. I think a right answer to your previous question is all about education. We need to really educate the public. We need to educate consumers. We need to educate producers. When you're using a cartridge, the bioavailability of the cannabinoids inside is totally different from when you start the cartridge to when you finish it. A very simple example is CBN. Let's say you get 0.01 milligram on the first of bioavailable vapor. You will oh, after maybe 50% of the cartridge, it'll all be gone. There won't be any left. And I think that's really the key to effects-based products, especially as Darwin was talking earlier about using a lot of different terpenes. Terpenes have an entourage effect. And that's just not only with cannabinoids. Chamomile, for instance, its benefit is doubled when you add certain terpenes to it. And really understanding how all of that works over time is very, very important. And then, of course, there's what are you using the cartridges with? And I also believe that's why we're seeing a lot more disposables, is because with a disposable, you can control the user experience and you can avoid people plugging in a 30-watt nicotine battery on a 510 thread cartridge that's not made to withstand more than 7 to 9 watts.
Excellent. And we're going to dig into terps in a little bit later. But what I'm curious about, because we have so many startups who join these calls, what advice would you give to someone launching a brand new vape brand? What guidance would make or break their journey?
Well, something that I want to mention that also kind of answers the last question too is part of the reason why we created the self-seal technology, which is basically just no cap. So it helps with the leaking, the clogging, contamination, and really it makes it a little bit more dummy proof, and it really saves on labor, which, as we know, 280E you can't write off. But really just automation, like trying to make do the least amount of work smarter, not harder. So I think that that's something that can be really overwhelming for a lot of new vape folks, is if they're not into it, really partnering with a hardware manufacturer like the folks here that really they listen to what the needs are, what the oil is, down, to Arno's point, like the science behind it, exactly what it is. Because, we're talking about it in the chat, when C-Cell came in, it was kind of backwards engineered. It was like, oh, this happens to work for it, but we ended up, working backwards instead of really centering it. So, knowing who your clientele are, knowing how it's used, is the flavor more important than the cloud production? That's going to change the aperture, the airflow, the voltage. I think that that's the most important thing, is it's not a one size fits all. I think it's really getting down to your internal team, how you want this to scale, what you want it to look like, and then partnering with people that really can help you scale. Some people offer really good terms and financing, but it's a little bit higher pricing. Some people have domestic stock, but then that's less, customization capabilities. So knowing what your needs are, what your timelines are, what your budget is, and what you need as far as the way it's going to look and feel, what level of modification you want, like taking out a new mold fee. If you want a cool window design or a cool new mouthpiece, you have to be prepared for, a 3 to 6 month runway, depending on who you're working with. So I think that, it's really important to partner with a manufacturer that's honest, that's available, that's based in the United States. You're not on WeChat 15 hours ahead with someone that needs a translator to understand what you're saying. I think that the devil's in the details a little bit with that. It's not just as easy as it seems, but we can help make it easy because we've all done it.
You get some incredible guidance there. Darwin, I would love to push over to you.
Yeah, sure. I was just echo what Luna was saying there, and would also just mention that it's really important to know what you want to make as a vape cartridge manufacturer, or I guess a vape product manufacturer, right? Whether that's some type of formulated extract, or if you're going to go big into the live resin, or if you're going to follow the live rosin trend. Understanding that fundamentally will help guide the entire rest of the process. And then going through your vendor qualifications and really vetting your hardware supplier, as well as whether or not they can assist with filling and other types of operations. The simpler that your partner can make that process, the more efficient it'll be for you. So keep those in mind when you're thinking about who you should work with.
Awesome. Tucker, Nate, want to jump in? Do one of you?
Yeah, I would say making sure that you understand that the quality hardware is just as important as the quality of the extract that goes in. If you're gonna make a really high quality extract and you're gonna try to put it into a low quality hardware, you're not gonna like the results. And so doing the R&D before that, but then also understand that when you're buying tens of thousands of units of these hardware, you have to be doing quality control in-house to make sure that you're finding inevitably you're going to have bad hardware that comes through in that type of process. And so doing quality control before things leave to go to the consumer, well, in the end, you'll have happier consumers.
Yeah, I'd say Tucker took the words out of my mouth. I'd say something that would really make or break, and I've seen it happen is, just the quality of hardware. Nod to all these great hardware manufacturers on this panel. My inbox gets flooded with buy a vape cartridge from us for 99 cents or whatever, and it will make or break your band. Go with something quality. You're going to spend all this time extracting this beautiful oil and this resin, and then go to put it in bad hardware. It's awful, and bad consumer experience, returns. It will ruin your brand really quick.
Awesome. And the 510 is obviously, historically the most popular option. How important is battery choice to optimize the user experience? Arnaud, Luna, bet Darwin as well. Love to hear in this one.
Well, it's just funny being a cartridge judge for the Emerald Cup. Like some people who enter their hardware also enter it with a battery, and we've noticed the ones that have a little bit lower voltage or are a little bit higher quality. People will actually save that one and test 100 cartridges with that one battery. So that alone just speaks so much. And these are the experts in vape. I mean, we're talking about people from SC Labs who've been doing this, Meadow. I mean, people who've been working with vapes for 10 years. So I just wanted to punctuate it with that it was a huge point of conversation in between the judges.
Yeah, just to follow on that, right? So some of the standards that Arnaud and I have been thinking about trying to create within the D37 and elsewhere is a guide to how you would determine the power output of your actual system, right? Because your battery is typically supplying a voltage, and then the device, the cartridge, right, is your resistance. So those two elements together give you wattage, right, or the power, which you could translate to heat based on a whole bunch of thermodynamics and fluid mechanics and things like that. More of, I guess, heat transfer and understanding the different materials, right, that are actually transferring that heat through it. You can then provide some type of guidance, or at least understand how hot your device is getting, right? But in typical trends there, if you've got a lower resistance, that's going to get hotter faster than something with a higher resistance. So with the same voltage, right? So if you want rosins and things like that, things that are supposed to have significantly better flavors, you may want to try to go for a lower heat, right? Lower temperature applied at the atomizer, which means you may want to try a combination of low voltage and high resistance.
I think really the lesson here is no matter which product you're using, always start with the lowest voltage, because that's really when you're going to start understanding how that voltage and how that temperature interacts with the product. And also keep in mind, going back to my previous comment about the nicotine vapes, don't use any battery. The batteries that you usually get for free everywhere are 99% of the case not good. How are they outputting an exact voltage? Do they have a PCB that will prevent them from firing if it's not at 2.8 volts? I think it's really, really important that as an industry, we make that very clear on packaging, on any kind of leaflets that are handed out with the products, and on our websites, that certain types of extracts are better used with these products. Because I can see down the line in a couple of years, people complaining that, hey, I got sick because of this, and I was using this product, and we're going to end up with a master settlement agreement, just like Big Tobacco did with multiple states. So it's really, really important as an industry, we really understand those interactions. And especially something as very basic as Ohm's law, which Darwin was referring to with the volt and the resistance.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anyone, we have to police ourselves, right? We don't have any regulatory bodies or third parties that are, saying these things. It's on us because, as we've seen with in so many cases, the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater. And it's crazy that we could put so much energy and beautiful oil and medicine into a cartridge, and something as simple as just getting a corner store $5 battery can really hurt us. And I think that we've kind of had this laissez-faire approach to it, and it really is on us to take the responsibility because we're the ones getting hurt by it. So, I mean, everyone knows if you hold that button down longer than 4 or 5 seconds, which a lot of people do, it can create a lot of issues, overheating, off gassing of components that we don't really talk about it as an industry, and it's not really our fault, but it's
Looks
I
like
w- my apologies, Jake. I was just going to jump in that this is really like follows quite linearly into some of the newer trends that we've started to see in hardware development. And that would be like including newer features into the devices themselves, right, to help ensure consumer safety, whether that's actually a smart cart or a smart battery, right? In either way, that they can communicate with one way or the other, right, to help adjust things on the fly, basically, so that this isn't the user's response, the consumer, right? It's not the consumer's responsibility to ensure that these things are functioning together, right? Like, not everyone is going to be that power user who's going out there and hunting down this information. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen printed on a cartridge the resistance. Like, me as a user, that's what I would need to know to what to run it at, right? So that's when developing some of the standards that we are trying to work through within industry right now, within ASTM International's D37, are really paramount to not only protecting or mitigating risk for us as operators, but protecting consumer safety.
I would even add that on the packaging or on the leaflets, and we're right now educating a lot of our clients about this because they don't want to use the space, the marketing space to do it. But on those cartridges, to specifically state, do not use a voltage setting higher than X amount. And unfortunately, this is also a consumer industry, and I'm not sure we have to let people know that not to put their cat in the microwave, but some are still going to do it.
It's a good one. And it's not the only segment of this discussion in which there is a proposal for new regulatory changes and limitations here. I know ASTM has taken the position that should be a warning label for devices with greater than 10% terpenes, total terp content, agnostic of source. What do you think? Reasonable? Darwin, I know this is a big matter for you. You're muted.
Absolutely. Yeah, I apologize. I was just responding to one of the, like, there's so many questions, whether it's in the QA or in the chat, right? So I'm trying my best. But yeah, okay. So ASTM International's D37 has recently published a labeling specification. That labeling specification defines some warning content that should be applied to the labels of consumer products that contain cannabinoids. The label specification is D as in Douglas 8449. Within that label specification, underneath the warning section, there is a requirement for an additional statement that basically says this product contains concentrated terpenes. I have to check to say if it says consume at your own risk after that or not. But anyways, providing information to the user, right, that there's more than 10% terpenes in this product. So the question, where did 10% come from? Basically, it's kind of a number that's been fleshed out by myself and other formulators in industry who've been kind of working around that on effectively without any better qualitative analysis or really organoleptic analysis of what does it feel like when you're vaporizing different products with higher terpene content at different voltages and whatever, right? And inevitably you get more lung irritation, throat irritation from things with more than 10%. So it was a value that kind of came upon from the standard balloting process as flushed out by the subject matter experts who participated, who kind of basically came and said that it's a conservative enough value without being super restrictive. And again, it's not saying you can't put any amount of terpenes in your product. It's simply providing another statement to the label saying that, informing the user or the consumer, I apologize, that that product has more than 10%. That's the background.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, from, we have a lot of just anecdotal type of feedback, when we do have heavier terpene contents, even if it's below 10%, it can be caustic, irritating. And it really pairs with the battery conversation we just had and how much you're heating it, how you're heating it, resistance, etc. So I think there's a big thing to kind of pair the battery, the voltage, the overall heating with, the terpene content of the product. Because if it's a live resin or something like that, that's, very thin, viscosity is just flowing like crazy, we're going to want to, make sure the heating is paired correctly with that product and that terpene content.
Yeah. And Tucker, you got your hand up. I'd love to hear from you on this one. I mean, in general, let's dig into terps a little bit. What factors are we considering when it comes to adding them to a final formulation? Food versus botanical, trusted sources. Tucker.
Yeah, thank you. So from from our standpoint, we're always going to lean more towards the natural terpenes from the cannabis itself. Our company itself we don't add terpenes. We don't use botanically derived terpenes. So we're gonna side that way. And so that would be one point where I would probably push back a little bit on the ASTM. I think more information is always better, and what we can give to the consumer is always better. I don't necessarily think that 10% is the spot maybe where a warning needs to be put, but in the end, more information is better for the consumer. I think if we're going to begin this type of process, we need to really take a look at labs and how they are testing for terpenes. I know in Oregon, we're seeing a massive range of lab to lab in the terpene testing, which is pretty sad. I don't like to see that, but it is not a regulated test that they do. So it's not a compliance test here in Oregon. And so we do see a little bit of range, lab to lab. And I think if we're going to start requiring that type of information beyond, especially with a warning, we need to see some better testing on the terpenes, what terpenes are being tested, stuff like that, better data coming from the compliance labs on that front to make sure that we're actually giving good, solid data to the consumers. But in the end, more data, more information to the consumer, I think always leads to better stuff.
Awesome. And working with resins versus disti. These are a goopy pain in the ass, regardless of how you slice it. But I'd love to learn a little bit more from each of you on the nuances you're seeing and consumer trends. Nate, you want to jump in here first?
Sure. I think, obviously people touched on, we're definitely seeing live rosin and solventless extracts kind of trending up in the market. But we at Jetty, we have, basically a product for everybody. We have a distillate product that's cannabis, blend of cannabis and botanical terpenes, and then everything else are live resin and solventless lines. Live rosin line is, all cannabis derived, whatever the plant gave us is kind of what goes into that product. But, it's something for everybody. I think, with our distillate, we can really dial in, especially with like a little bit of the botanical backbone on terpene content, really dial in a consistent flavor. Our Maui Wowie is, just a fan favorite. We've had it on the shelf for years. It never goes out of stock. Whereas, with the live rosin, it's very strain specific. Not everything works for live rosin. Everything, we're always kind of hunting for different types of unique cultivars and strains that give us a different terpene profile, because a lot of things are very similar, in this like kind of GMO, sweet gas kind of funk terpene profiles. And then the beautiful thing about live resin extracts is, any inputs basically work. And, you can run a Jack Herrera and you can run, any sort of crazy OG you want and get, a great terpene profile from that plant, from that input product. So you have a wide array of basically strains and flavors with the live resins, with the live rosins, it's still sort of limited on what we can do and what we can produce and what the inputs are.
And it also goes back just to the quality of the input, right? You don't have to add a bunch of extra terpenes if you have an amazing formulation in a strain that only needs 5 to 8% terpenes for it to work, right? Some people are choosing strains that need 12%. And to the folks that are commenting in the chat about the volatility, I'm really sensitive to anything above 8% terpenes personally. It really burns my throat. It really is sticky and pokey in my throat. So I think that I really admire the people that backwards engineered it to make sure that they could keep it below a certain amount of terpenes, and really, like you said, Nate, like find the ones that make most sense and feel the best, as opposed to trying to just do whatever's popular and then having to up the amount of solvents that you're putting in it.
Darwin, I saw your hand go up.
Well, actually, I think Tucker's hand was up first. I'll go right after him.
I think his is still up from previously. Yeah. Either way, jump in.
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess I'm off mute. Sorry, Tucker. I'll go for it. I was just gonna say we've been doing a lot of research in this area because for us as a co-man for filling hardware and a hardware manufacturer, we get kind of the best of both worlds there, where we get a lot of R&D with real product. Right. So that's been really amazing to help us dial in kind of what are those key parameters you want to look into for making rosin functional in hardware. And what we've really come to understand, right, there's kind of three main things, which I put in the chatty boxy thing here, is that it's decarboxylation, right? So how decarbs did you actually get? Because when you have acidic cannabinoids in there, those can increase viscosity and can also crash out, right? So basically, if you got solids in there, it's going to make the material more viscous, harder to work with. And viscosity, which of course can directly right into terpene content, like you were saying, Luna, right? That's kind of the mechanism, the thing we can play with to kind of control viscosity of these rosins is that terpene content, that naturally existing amount. And what we've found is that as long as you've got at least 5% in there with that, that naturally occurring rosin that you're producing, that's going to be okay-ish. It's going to work all right. But, you want to think maybe how close can you get to that 10%, right? And be in a place where the user experience is where you want it to be. And finally, it's particulate debris. And the finer you can filter your rosin, or you can press it out, the absolute better you're going to have, because you're going to have less fats and waxes, less particulate debris that's in your material, which effectively is all the little junky stuff that's going to clog the atomizer and just fill up all those lovely pores that are inside that inside your core, and fill them up with waxes, or just fill them up and clog them so oil can't make it to the end, and leads to that burning taste and all sorts of the unpleasantness that you typically would have with rosin carts filled over 0.5 gram.
And subsequently the pores of your lungs.
I think all those things that Darwin was just talking about, that's why I do believe that we're going to see a lot of innovation in the rosin vape hardware game over the next couple of years. I think it's the biggest opportunity in this area for innovation. There's a lot of challenges, like Darwin just mentioned, to overcome, but that's what we're great at. I think that's what this industry is great at. I think the people in it love overcoming new challenges. They love seeing this stuff and they're like, hey, how can I fix this? And that's what's great about this. So I think Nate had some great points about rosin. There is a smaller selection of strains and things that you can put in there, and that's why there's always going to be a great resin game. But also finding ways that we can get this great product of rosin in hardware and have a great user experience is where the innovation can happen right now, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. Well, hard pivot here, but a topic I want to cover because I know it's a little bit controversial. How do you stay competitive with the hemp market? Is this a major issue or opportunity for your firms? Maybe Luna, Darwin, you guys want to jump in?
I mean, they're really the same thing. I think prohibition is what's caused us to create this false dichotomy between marijuana and cannabis, hemp. It's just, to me personally, as a patient, it's kind of silly. But also, I think we need to be honest about the fact that a lot of our regulated Delta 9 operators are funding some of their legal businesses that are overtaxed, overregulated. And with having a hemp side or a D8 or a D10 line, I think that we de facto decriminalize psychoactive cannabis in this country through the hemp bill and or the farm bill, and the ability to have psychoactive substances available pretty much at any time to anyone, anywhere in the United States. So I feel like, we need to really work together to see how we can join forces and take the privileges that each one has, share those, take the challenges that each one has, and collaborate on ways to move forward together. Because we straddle everything, right? We're in the nicotine, hemp, and cannabis spaces. We believe in providing, to everyone's points about Alibaba and cheapcarts.com, when you have those kinds of things, it's a consumer issue for all of us. So if we don't set the standard, and vape is a huge sector that's growing, I'd rather it be us that have GMP and ISO standards and people that have a good heart and got into this for healthcare. I mean, Jetty Extracts got founded because of our friend who had cancer, and Nate didn't want to give him something that he knew once you put solvents into it, it starts degrading. God knows what was in the middle stem, and really creating what eventually happened with the Avali crisis. I think that it's really important that we bring the best practices from the overregulated market, see what works and what's smart about it and competent about it, and bring it into the hemp space, because really they're going hand over foot. I keep noticing that, like, the Delta 9 legal is being overregulated and the hemp is being unregulated, and we don't have a middle ground. It's like we're not doing enough here and we're doing way too much over here. Let's find a middle ground where we can actually have safe, reliable products that are not being taxed and controlled to death.
I couldn't agree more with Luna. I mean, we should be looking at this to embrace it, right? And get behind a cannabinoid consumer products marketplace wherever those cannabinoids are coming from. It's awesome. We just need to be safe about it, provide the right information for the consumer to make an informed decision, right? Put some labels, some warnings on the product, right, or whatever that makes sense, but allow the products to be in the market. And for us as both hardware manufacturer and co-manufacturer, it's an amazing opportunity, because we see this as being able to provide more services to the cannabinoid consumer product space, and we look to support it and see it grow.
Excellent. Anyone else on this one?
Yeah, I'd say just from like a brand perspective that we're heavily, obviously, THC focused from traditional cannabis, and we're watching it closely. I think to everybody's point, it's really consumer safety at the end of the day. We don't really have a problem with it as long as it's safe. Luna mentioned, we're kind of self-regulating, and a lot of times people sort of jump in for the wrong reasons, just want to cash out really quick. And that brings a lot of bad actors, which led us to, I think, a vape illness, a few years back. So that's my only sort of like caution, waving the caution flag around it, is just making sure, first and foremost, it's safe for the consumer. And, it's hard when no one's really regulating you or the people entering the space, and just making sure we're all keeping each other honest and that no one gets hurt.
Yeah, I think just one last comment on the history of CBD vaping, because everyone seems to think it's new and it's coming out. CBD vaping existed even before cannabis vaping. It was CBD isolate that was included in nicotine e-juice. And there was even some juices that had just PG, VG flavorings and CBD isolate, and were selling it as a way to get off nicotine. This was 10 years ago. So it's been around for a while. I've always fought against using just isolate, because you never know where it comes from. You never know how it's made, and it decants very easily in the products. But just a little word of caution: it's been around for a long, long time. It's been sold in all the bodegas here in New York for a long, long time, and it's about time we make sure that we make great products on all of cannabinoids.
Yeah, just following on that, Arnold, and the question that we do have in the Q&A related to CBD. I think what we've finally starting to see because we now have available material is actual cannabinoid ratios in vape form, like actual blended products, whether they're intended to solicit structure function claims, right, or if they're just made to capture onto the hype. At least we have them now. And one of the things we're starting to see a lot of is THCV, and trying to make or using vapes as a delivery mechanism for dietary supplements or products that again solicit those structure function claims, right? Like, so I'm going to vape on some THCV and I'm not going to eat today, or I'm going to eat less today, right? That type of idea. Or to Arnold's point, and really to the question that was in the Q&A of like, is vaping CBD a thing? Sure, but why, right? Most people want to get high, so CBD ain't going to do that. But if you're addicted to nicotine and you need a nicotine cessation device, awesome. But that's a specific claim that needs medical data to show that you're going to sell a tobacco cessation device that can then be paid for by insurance. That's a completely different game plan, different model. The adult use regular consumer product marketplace don't care. They won't get high.
Awesome. I think that's a perfect answer and a perfect segue into our next question around innovation. What are you seeing that excites you? AI, different filling machines, lasers. Love to hear from everybody here.
Yeah, I think Darwin was kind of touched on the mixed ratios and just having different cannabinoids available and actual data and studies to back up claims. We're starting to suss that out and see things like THCV and having different effects and mood modulations and things like that. So, I mean, that's exciting because and we're starting to see it in retail. When you walk into the stores, there's like a wellness section or effects-based section, and it's primarily THCV and CBNs and just a few cannabinoids. But I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg here, and you're going to see a lot of new interesting ratios, whether that be terpene blends and cannabinoid blends mixed together.
I dig lasers, and we're actually working on some combustion devices using lasers. So throwing that out there.
Yeah, I'm still just really amped on the self-sealing technology too. I just, as a, someone who's heard so many pain points go in the filling process, because we send our hardware, we let them know our SOPs, we visit the facilities, and then once it starts, once people start hand filling, someone leaves it out too long, someone doesn't flip it over in time, it's not primed in the right environment. We've just seen so much good oil and such good hardware turn into a non-working or an underserving product. So I'm just excited. The feedback that we've gotten from the self-sealing machines just made our operators' lives so much easier to be able to automate something and be able to focus a little bit more on the R&D, on the oil, less on the drama and the headaches. We always say like fuck capping. It's been a big part of the world of drama for us. And even back when I was with Jetty Extracts, a huge amount of issues that we had came from poorly calibrated cartridges and batteries. I mean, Nate, you remember when we lost like Harborside and CBCB all because C-Cell just sent a bunch of 5,000 batteries. This is after 2 years of waiting in waiting rooms to get into a club, and Jetty oil is amazing. And it just so happened that something happened at the C-Cell factory, and it took us, years to recover and rework our reputation with those folks. And it really had nothing to do with the brands or the sales reps or anything like that. It was just, something that was overlooked. And I think that trying to tighten up those loose ends can really help some of these brands who are a little too small to withstand that kind of damage to their reputation and to their sales accounts.
I'm really excited about seeing insolventless and how that's going to affect the hardware and where we're going with that. I think that's a really fun area right now that we're going to see grow and how that's going to look, and then just the innovation that is coming from the hardware side and how we can use that even on our resin, our live resin side, and beginning to truly match great resins with great hardware and mix and match and what works best and just really working with our partners on that. I think we're going to really see some great great stuff coming out in the future that the user is just going to absolutely love, and that's exciting to see. Happy customers are awesome. That's the best part of this industry.
And they
Yeah,
just want to be heard, right? They just want to be listened to.
absolutely. I just wanted to echo Tucker and Luna there, but what I mentioned earlier, right, about like real design work and thought going into cartridge and flow channel design now at this point, like to echo Tucker, like we've got some really cool hardware innovation and performance optimization that we're working on that we really want to deliver that premium user experience to the marketplace. And I know all the other manufacturers here are too. And so absolutely. And in the like the next 5 years, what we're going to see in the vape market is going to be completely different than what we have now. Fully tailored, actual devices that work well, whether they're smart or not, but real systems, right? The cartridge battery system real built for what that input material is to provide the optimal user experience and consistent, right? Because like bad example maybe, but if you're a nicotine tobacco consumer, right, and you go and you choose a pack of cigarettes, right, you are a brand diehard consumer because it delivers the experience that you want every single time, and that's where we're going.
Yeah, I think the science is really behind it, as you were saying, Darwin. I remember when we started Blink in 2017, I started going to shows and showing the vaping equation, which is the mathematical model of vaporization, which includes thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, and chemistry. And everyone was looking at me with wide eyes, like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" I'm happy to see that now people are actually understanding this. And it's taken so long, but it really is going to be a game changer that a lot more of us as hardware manufacturers are thinking this way, because it's the only way to get products out. I mean, this is the only industry where you can literally build a product in your garage, put it in a tube that you bought in Alibaba, and then put it on sale. I mean, when you think about this, you're like, wow, okay, great. This is America. It's the American dream. Well, as a French person, that's not my American dream, because that's going to kill Americans. That's maybe the North Korean dream or the Russian dream. I don't care. Not the American dream. So really the science behind it and staying focused on that is really super important.
Awesome. And Nate, you want to close this out, something that excites you on the innovation side?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the rare cannabinoids and stuff like that. And, I think to what, a lot of these guys said, there's just a lot of crossroads, I think, that are going to intersect when it comes to hardware development. We're seeing more and more new tech. You guys mentioned lasers. I tried a laser vaporization device. It didn't work, but, I think the sky's the limit. There's just a lot of interesting new things that we're going to see. And, the more we as extractors and producers talk to the manufacturers and talk to, the cultivators and the farmers, is the more communication and synergy we all have, ultimately it's going to make a better product for the consumer.
That's the word, Nate. Synergy and collectivism. We're not us versus them internally. We are all one, and this panel is an unbelievable example of that. We're all heading in the right direction, and we need to support each other, because fragmenting and believing that we're competitors is not helping anyone. This is a win-win-win when we all get together.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. But while we're on the topic of competitors, let's kick the hornet's nest a little bit with a little bit of controversial, a little bit of fun, to close things out. Always like to do these at the end of my panels. A rapid fire questions list here. Remember, panelists, you're just picking one or the other, so feel to unmute after I've asked. Let's hear from you guys. Ceramic core versus medical grade stainless.
All cores are ceramic.
It's an easy one.
I was going to say same thing.
Should have flagged that one during the dry run. Sorry about that.
I would actually add to that. It's not necessarily ceramic, can be carbon, can be anything else, but the wicking material in this case is the ceramic. But that said, stainless steel, if you're using a regular cart, is a lot better to use rather than having nichrome wire inside that ceramic. Not to mention the heating ramp, source things like rosin and terps is a lot easier.
And I have seen some quartz atomizers recently, so I don't know if they're all ceramic.
Look into that. Awesome. Get
They're
crystal.
not. But quartz is super complicated and hard to do, but the best.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be talking about it on next year's. Botanical versus cannabis drive terps.
CDT all day.
Yeah.
They're the same.
Agreed.
Not too controversial on that one. Disposables versus carts and battery solutions.
Dedicated battery and a cart. Honestly,
One.
Recyclable all-in-one, not called disposables. Thank you.
One ones. Yeah.
Mitchell.
I agree with Arno. The recyclable all-in-one.
well, I'll throw some controversy out there. How do we deal with the fact that it costs more to ship the batteries back to the manufacturing facility to reuse them than it does to just make a new battery?
What's the
Agreed.
cost on
me-
lobbying because really the only reason we can't recycle, which I don't think anyone's named, but they've been going off on it in the chat, is because there's a gag rule. I mean, all recycling facilities are federal funded. So until it's decriminalized, we're just going to be figuring out patchwork Band-Aid solutions for this.
Yeah, but cost, like it doesn't make economic sense to ship the batteries back to China.
They don't have to be shipped back to China.
Interesting. Now we just need manufacturing in the United States.
That was the whole goal of having the 25% tariff, right?
All right. Resin versus rosin. Easy one here.
Rosin.
Rosin.
I mean, rosin is a resin, so we could get nitpicky, but yeah, I prefer rosin too.
Great.
Solventless all the way.
So agreed on that one. MSOs versus craft cannabis.
Both.
Crafty MSOs.
Got to support the industry, but what are you buying it for? What are you buying from them?
Yeah, I think
Support
MSOs will get better reach due to their implementations, and craft cannabis is what people move to after trying MSOs for a couple of months.
Sure. All right, final
The
three
gateway.
here. Celebrity involvement versus going it alone.
Going it alone.
Alone.
I haven't seen a single celebrity brand work yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say celebrity brands, not so much, but involvement, like you said, I don't know, could be interesting.
Yeah, I've seen a lot more.
Shout out to Viola. Al Harrington's one of the only ones that have really made it, and it's because he didn't make it about him, and he's very humble and available, and that's the only caveat. But to that point, it's not his face on everything, right?
Just saw him walking around PuffCon on Saturday. Yeah. Khalifa Kush obviously has made a good run of it. You know, Houseplant, is definitely been able to build a lot of hype. All right. Final two here. MJ Biz or MJ. Oh, wait, one more.
Let me just answer Mitchell. Willie was weed before being a celebrity.
Very true. MJ Biz or MJ Unpacked.
Unpacked.
Biz.
I haven't been to Unpacked. I can't say.
All right. Like a little bit of a split answer on that one. And let's finish it out. East Coast cannabis scene versus West Coast.
West Coast.
Ghost.
East Coast sour diesel, West Coast OG. Just depends.
I think it's
Coming from the guy from Buffalo, New York.
Mhm.
East Coast likes to just absorb everything we do. So once we set something cool here, it's immediately East Coast. So
No, I disagree. I'm the only East Coast rep here, okay? And the only reason is until France legalizes, then it's going to be French. But right now, it's East Coast because, and I'm going to be very, very East Coast about it, all the money that was on the West Coast funneled through came from the East Coast.
Great way of putting it.
It was our weed.
East Coast gets to take advantage of everything we've done so far. Once we have a great trend, they're just like, boom, it's on the East Coast.
It's called management.
Awesome. Well, I can't think of a better way to close out, with some laughs here. Does everyone want to briefly go around and just say where we can find you, how to get in touch with you? We'll start with Arnaud.
Definitely theblinkgroup.com. We just have a new website with a lot more science on it. So for those science fans out there, please have a look. Otherwise, my email is very straightforward. Arnaud@theblinkgroup.com. I will reply to each and every one of them.
Awesome. Luna?
Hi, y'all. I am at Luna Stour. I'm dropping it in the chat right now on Instagram. We're getispire.com. And I'm lunastour.com as well. And I'm just so excited to be a part of this and really honored. And same thing, as Arnaud said, you guys can hit me up, luna@getispire.com or any other channel. And I'm totally here to support. I work for the people in the plant. I wear iSpire everywhere I go, just like I did with Jetty when I was with them. But at the end of the day, I'm really here for safe access and medical sovereignty and bodily autonomy. That's the most important thing to me. So just know that no matter what I say, it's always going to be the truth and it's always going to come from the heart.
Love that. Nate?
Sure. Luna's always got good, motivates me in a good way. But yeah, Nate Ferguson, Jetty Extracts. You can hit the Google machine, Jetty Extracts, @Jetty Extracts, all that good stuff. Emails Nate@Jetty Extracts. And yeah, again, really thank you guys for having me. Great panel.
Awesome. Tucker?
Yeah, EntourageCanada.com, EntourageCanada in the Instagram. Like Nate said, you can Google us. So, and I put my email in the thread, Tucker Holland at cdiscoveryoregon.com.
All right, Darwin, last one.
Thanks, Jake. Much appreciated. Just if you're looking for hardware, I encourage people to check out 14thround.com. I put the information in the chat. And if you're looking for a co-manufacturer, either on the West Coast or the East Coast, in New York specifically, reach out to Final Bell, the team at finalbell.com, and we'd love to work with you all. If anyone interested in reaching out to the Spock of Cannabis, you can find me at darwin@thespockofcannabis.com, or if you'd like to reach out to me directly via my chief science role, it's letter D for Darwin, Millard@finalbell.com, and I also put that in the chat. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate being here.
You guys are with Pura in New York, right?
I believe that is our licensing partner. I'd have to double check.
Awesome. Well, that should do it. And while I'm Jake Kuzarek, the focus here is on our panelists. Let's get a round of applause for our panelists. It's always so weird on Zoom, but we're doing it. For giving us their valuable time today. Hopefully I'll see you all back here on the 12th for our next panel titled Cannabis Vaping, Avoid Being an Easy Target. I'll now turn things back over to Brian Gilbert of NCIA to close us out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jake. The virtual round of applause has gotten so much better once they added the emojis and the reactions into Zoom. You can actually see it visually. So thank you, Jake, as always, for leading an amazing, thought-provoking conversation with this esteemed panel of experts from across NCIA's network of thought leaders and industry service providers. As Jake mentioned, we do have a number of sessions in this series already queued up, taking part over the next 2 weeks in October. There is a outro poll that we just enabled. I know it's got a few questions in there, so it might be lengthy at first glance, but go all the way to the bottom of it. Make sure to answer the final 2 questions. Express your interest and availability for parts 2 and 3 taking place next Thursday and next Tuesday. They're going to be fantastic sessions featuring some of the panelists that you saw here today and a number that we haven't had featured on our webinar series previously amongst NCIA's member network and Cannabis Manufacturing Committee. So really looking forward to those sessions. Thank you all so much for joining us today. As always, want to take this last opportunity while you're getting some responses into those outros polls to give you a queue up of some upcoming activities that NCIA will be taking place part in and to get make sure that you mark your calendars. Next year, for May 14th or 16th through the 18th, we will be returning to Washington, D.C., excuse me, for our 12th annual Cannabis Industry Lobby Days. This is your best chance as an NCIA member to advocate for the issues that are most important to small cannabis businesses and share your personal stories with national lawmakers who need to hear from Main Street cannabis businesses. If you've never been a citizen lobbyist before, don't worry. We'll offer virtual training in advance as well as on site. And a huge thank you to the 30 sponsoring member businesses that have already signed on to support next year's edition. We are running deals on sponsorships, and we will be opening up registration at the end of December. So if you want to sign on and support this amazing event, reach out to our team following today's program. And then additionally, mark your calendars for the debut of our NCIA Stakeholder Summit series, where regional and federal interests will converge for a transformative dialogue in the cannabis industry. We'll be hosting these in advance of and leading into our 12th annual Cannabis Industry Lobby Days in select state capitals across the country. So mark your calendars for these. Again, huge thank you to A Therapeutic Alternative and Dope CFO Certified Advisors, the two early bird sponsors who have already signed on to support these amazing events. If you want to learn more about how you can get involved with these events, either as a member, a speaker, or a sponsor, please reach out to our team following today's program as well. And then finally, last but not least, for all of you NCIA members that are here still in the room, do mark your calendars for our new monthly member orientation schedule. We're trying to get onto a recurring schedule with this, taking place the second week of every month through the remainder of the year. If you log into your Community Hub profile, it'll be the first event that you and your team can register for an RSVP within Community Hub. So go to our website to learn more and secure your spot for these sessions so you can learn how to maximize your membership with NCIA. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an insightful journey through the vape industry landscape today. We'd like to extend our deepest gratitude to our esteemed panelists, Tucker Holland, Darwin Millard, Nate Ferguson, Luna Stour, Arnaud Dumas de Raleigh, and Jake Kuzarek for leading today's fantastic conversation. We hope that all of you all leave with a clearer understanding of the vape industry's complexities, trends, and potential for innovation down the road. Remember, the learning doesn't stop here. Keep exploring, stay informed, and engage with NCIA's Industry Essentials webinars and our Committee Insights series for more valuable content. As always, a huge thank you to our member businesses that are essential in driving our organization's message forward. As always, we'll leave you all with this end of event credit sequence that highlights the nearly 65 member businesses which joined us today and are taking the additional step to support continued reform by sponsoring our upcoming in-person activities in early 2024. Thank you all so much. Hope to see you at future webinars. Until then, stay informed, stay inspired, and keep driving progress in the ever-evolving world of cannabis. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.